But let's move on now, because J.K. Rowling has issued a brilliant smackdown to Vice News after the media outlet levied an argument as to why neo-Nazis were at pro-Palestinian protests. Now, you might remember whenever a neo-Nazi rocked up to a rally for women's rights amid the transgender debate, everyone at those rallies was smeared.
Well, here's to us being amazing. Cheers, everyone. Cheers.
A celebratory toast just hours after ugly and shocking scenes in Melbourne CBD.
It was just a fun day and it was really great. Yeah.
Liberal MP Moira Deeming was at the Let Women Speak anti-trans rights rally when more than 24 neo-Nazis joined the protest, performing the Hitler salute on the steps of Victoria's Parliament. Now the opposition leader wants her gone.
Now, obviously, that's ridiculous, as you don't have control of who else turns up to a protest. People should be responsible for their own actions, not the actions of someone next to them, or even worse, someone in the near vicinity. But many journalists on the left have been incapable of drawing that distinction, until, of course, it involves Palestine. Vice News asserts neo-Nazis have used growing anger against the Israeli government as an opportunity to spew anti-Semitic and anti-immigrant conspiracy theories, launder them into the mainstream and drive recruitment. And J.K. Rowling does not miss with her response. Hang on, when far-right groups eager for publicity and violence agitate near women's rallies, that makes all the women sticking up for their rights fascists. However, when Nazis join a protest that you agree with, they're opportunists who mustn't be allowed to besmirch a righteous cause. What an absolutely brilliant woman. How lucky are we to have her on the side of reason and logic. Caroline, obviously you would remember the struggles of Moira Deeming that she had with her own party. She was slandered by many journalists with this association, this guilt by association that she had no control of. Do you find it interesting how a defence to that proposition is now being made for the Palestinian marches?
Well, it's standard fare. And I talk about this a little bit. You know, we see something like hypocrisy as a moral failing, like as it not being a good thing, and you should try not to be a hypocrite. You need to understand, in the very progressive side of the world, they don't care if they're hypocrites. So they know that they do the wrong thing. They just don't care because it doesn't suit their particular narrative. And if they can get their narrative off and running nice and quickly, like they did in the Moira Deeming situation, and then that there gets, you know, they get in front of the story and they get to position it all a certain way, then they see that as an ideological win. And the fact now that it's being a little bit unhelpful, they will just take the alternative position, but they just don't care. And this is where reporting on the issues objectively, and this is where people like J.K. Rowling calling it out is actually really important, because there's a great many people who might only see one issue, or they didn't know about the women's marches, or they haven't been watching the pro-Palestinian marches, but it's a great way for people who may not know everything about what's going on to be able to join those dots and see something like Vice for what it really is.
Yeah, very well said. Caleb, I think Caroline's right. A big problem sometimes that conservatives have when debating people on the left is that they're assuming that there's going to be intellectual integrity in their arguments. And so as Caroline puts it, they don't seem to care that there's this massive hypocrisy in that line.
Well, look, the volumes of cognitive dissonance we see here are even greater than the volumes of red wine I drank last night. And it's incredible to watch the way a lot of the media has reacted to some of this. It has exposed a real anti-Semitic underbelly, not only in the left, but in large parts of the media, because, of course, large parts of the media are dominated by the left, and they all went to the same universities, and they all went to the same private schools, etc., where they've been indoctrinated through the long march through the institutions. So they all come out the other side thinking the same way, and then all of a sudden they seem to be supporting some terrorist, anti-democratic mob over in the Middle East that would cut their heads off in 5 minutes flat if they ever went near the joint. But to be honest, I think it's all much of a muchness, because you can say, OK, well, a few neo-Nazis rocked up to a pro-Palestinian event, but all the people who go to these pro-Palestinian events shout from the river to the sea, which is code for eliminate Israel and eliminate the Jews. So you mightn't be a Nazi in the normally understood sense of the word, which is like a skinhead kind of thing, but you believe in the same thing. So whatever label you put on it, pro-Palestinian or whatever, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, you and the Nazis believe in the same cause, which is wiping out the Jews.
Correct. And at the women's rallies, the 99% of people who were in attendance at the women's rallies were not parroting Nazi talking points. They were talking about a very hyper-specific point. That's the difference, inconsistent way that the media dealt with it.